again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and Tuesday night means it's Ross Gregory joining us. Good evening, Ross.
Evening, Steve. Evening, everyone.
Good to see you, mate. And Newcastle United are involved tonight in the Eusebio Cup. Benfica versus Newcastle United, named after the great player Eusebio. And will Newcastle United get their first taste of podium glory? That's what it'll look like if Newcastle United are on the podium, and that's the trophy itself. Quite a prestigious one, and it's pre-season. It's a pre-season trophy, but just getting into that that kind of feel of winning stuff would be nice for Newcastle fans. It's something we've been denied since 1969, of course. The Fairs Cup, Bobby Moncur lifting the trophy at St James's Park to a packed St James's Park. So let's hope it's it is one of those kind of nights, and we get a chance to see something like that. But yeah, Ross, it's another tough game for Newcastle, and it's been a good pre-season for Newcastle. It's been a one where they've taken some tough opposition, and like I've said, back-to-back games next week, giving the squad a full chance to have a run out. Burnley, of course, we played at the start of the week with, a weird concept of two simultaneous games and players jumping between games. But it's a world away from what we've been doing in the last couple of seasons in pre-seasons. It is.
It's been really tough pre-season. There's going to be no kind of excuses come the Nottingham Forest game about lack of preparation or being slightly undercooked or anything else like that. There's some real kind of high caliber opposition. You've been German Bundesliga teams. Benfica. You've got two more good European teams to come next. Come at the weekend as well, Friday, Saturday. A Burnley team which has just dropped out of the Premier League as well. So yeah, really kind of high stakes, high profile games, really tough competition and intense games, which I think is something obviously Eddie Howe was keen on. It just feels now like it's the kind of the business end of pre-season, if that makes sense. Your first few games, I think you want to get minutes into as many of the players' legs as possible. You want to make sure that they're getting 45, 60 minutes in as many of the games as they can. But now you kind of feel as if you're winding up to the season now. You've got the game tonight, 2 at the weekend, and then you're into the Forest game. So I think tonight will be a good indication of where Newcastle are. It'd be interesting to see the starting 11 when that drops, and interesting to see the partnerships and the lineups that come out, and same on the weekend as well. See who's been partnered with who's in what you might class as your strongest team, because Eddie Howe's going to have to start now making decisions on who his starting team is likely to be for Forest, and testing it out in these last remaining couple of games.
Yeah, don't forget, Newcastle United have just announced about an hour ago that the game will be live on their website. It'll also be available on Premier Sports 1 if you've got that on your cable package, Sky package, whatever. But yeah, they will be broadcasting the game on the website, nufc.co.uk. So 8 o'clock British summer time. Get yourself onto the website if you want to watch the game tonight. A lot of people chattering in the chat about one man in particular. It's the latest in a long line of names linked with Newcastle United, and it's a striker. We need in this transfer window. I'm sure we will get one. Will Werner bring goals to Newcastle, or should that be goals? But will he bring goals to Newcastle? Tom Dixon says, Newcastle interested in Timo Werner. Would you take him? He's a goal scorer and probably do a good job for us. Geordie Tune for Life says, well, Timo Werner. You know my thoughts on him, but somehow I just can't see it happening. But my God, I hope I'm wrong. Roger Cook says Werner would be beyond a belter. Wages a problem, perhaps? What's your thoughts on this one, Ross, which is picking up a little bit of pace, like a lot of these transfer stories do at first, but seem to peter away to nothing?
Yeah, I think this is it's another interesting one. I think there's no doubt in my mind, and going by the comments in the chat as well, I think there's no doubt in many people's minds that he'd be an upgrade on what Newcastle have got. You can play in them wide forward positions. He can also play through the middle. He would be ideal in many senses. German international pace, good age, works hard, has got an eye for goal. I know it hasn't quite happened from at Chelsea for one reason or another, but he's a very, very talented player and a very good player. You can see why there is an interest there, but that has to kind of be tempered by the fact that it is just a kind of an interest at this stage. It's anything more developed than that. From what I can gather, Werner's representatives are wanting to potentially move him out of Chelsea into another club this summer. I think they are concerned, as Werner probably is as well, slightly about his game time at Chelsea. He fell down the pecking order a little bit last season. He's not guaranteed a start. There's obviously a lot of competition there, and yes, Lukaku's gone, but there's still a lot of competition for those forward places with Havertz and Sterling and Pulisic and so on and so forth, and they'll probably look to bring somebody else in as well this summer. So he's not guaranteed a game at Chelsea. He will be wanting to make sure that he's getting good game time ahead of November in the World Cup. So that's something that Werner's representatives have an eye on, and so will he. You've got to weigh up though the fact that he's on really, really big wages, really, really big money at Chelsea. I've seen 270k a week mentioned. Whether that's accurate or not, that's way beyond Newcastle's budget, beyond what Newcastle would be willing to pay. So I think from Newcastle perspective, from what I can gather, they're just keeping an eye on his situation, see if it might be someone who gets offered out on loan in before the transfer window's finished, with obviously still having to pay a sizable chunk of his wages, but Chelsea picking up the rest. I do think it would probably be more of a loan deal than anything else at this point. But whether Chelsea would be willing to do that and loan a player of his calibre back into the Premier League, or a club like Newcastle, I'm not sure. But yeah, you can see why he's interested. Why there's interest in him, because of his personal situation, but also from Newcastle's perspective, because he is a talented forward.
I couldn't see Chelsea paying, the percentage of wages either. Could you?
I couldn't. No, I don't think I could. Certainly not to another Premier League team. Now, maybe he may end up going back to Germany or somewhere else abroad, potentially. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if Chelsea say, look, here you go, put him into the Premier League, put him into Newcastle, and go, right, there's we'll pay for half of him, we'll pay for half his wages, or 60% of his wages, or 40% of his wages, or whatever. It's still a massive chunk. So no, I can't see that happening at all, to be honest.
No, definitely not. Thank you to everybody in the chat. 49,000 subscribers reached yesterday on the channel. Absolutely brilliant when you look at the fact that we only started this off really in 2020, March 2020, just as the lockdowns were beginning in different European countries, etc. And of course, we started it off on Instagram as a bit of a way of me coping with the lockdown and getting my friends on to talk about Newcastle, something which we'd toyed with doing a couple of years previous. Did a little promo show, didn't really come off me, Supermax sitting there talking football, but lo and behold, we're 49,000 subscribers now, and we love doing it, and we know you enjoy it. Thanks very much to everybody supporting the show. Thanks to everybody in the chat for contributing. Thanks to people like Ross and everybody who's been on the show since 2020 as well, because without the show as guests, then the show wouldn't be as good. And we'll continue to do it as long as we can, and as long as there's something to talk about at Newcastle, which there's never a dull moment at St James's Park. I think that's the one thing that we all know only too well. So yeah, thanks very much again, and thanks for all the wishes and best wishes in the chat. Very nice. Michael says, so I think I've calmed down since the last few weeks where I was very anxious about lack of forward signings. I think I've accepted that success next season is finishing lower mid-table. As long as we are not involved in the relegation fight, we were for most of last season, I was probably expecting a little bit too much to get into that group of teams just outside the top 6. Fair enough, Michael. Yeah, listen, I mean, there's, it's so difficult to keep your feet on the ground. That's the problem, isn't it? When you suddenly become, in principle, Ross, the most, the richest club in the world. And I think that was the way that the media put it across. But in theory, I think what Newcastle's new owners are trying to achieve is be the best run club in the world. And that will take time. It will take time.
Where Newcastle have come from when the new owners took over, and let's not forget this is 9-10 months ago, October that the takeover went through, and Newcastle were bottom of the Premier League, or nigh on bottom of the Premier League, certainly in the relegation places. To expect to jump from there to a top 6, or even just outside the top 6, 7th or 8th within a year's kind of period, or 18 months is a big ask still. I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility, obviously, and I think we all hope that there will be good quality additions come into the forward positions between now and September the 1st, and I do think that there will be a couple of additions still between now and then. But the club aren't going to be held to ransom. They're not going to go out and buy players that don't feel add value to the squad. They're not going to go out and bring players in who they think will be disruptive or just won't fit in with what they want to do. You bang right. They want to be the best run club that they possibly can. They want to do things the right way. That might mean taking a little bit of time and having a little bit of patience. But I said last week, we're looking at, by the time this transfer window is done, you're probably looking at the thick end of £180 million spent in 2 transfer windows. The ambition is there, the desire and the focus and the will to improve the club is certainly there. That's just on transfers, by the way. That's not looking at the improvements to the training ground and improvement to St James's as well. So my point is, I suppose, is that we do have to be a little bit patient, but I still think a mid-table finish, possibly even higher, is not beyond the realms of possibility, and we've still got a lot of time to go before the transfer window is closed.
Yeah, of course we are. 1st of September when the transfer window closes, so plenty of time to get players in, and we've done well so far. And as Ross rightly points out, we've spent a lot of money, a lot more money in these last 1.5 transfer windows than we have in the last few years. So it's good stuff. Just give them time. Give them that little bit of patience, and I'm sure things will go right. Thanks. The question is, who can pay 270k for Werner a week? He's got to come down in his wages. Yeah, I'm sure that's right as well. It's look, from our perspective, he's a class player. He's a step above what we've got. And it will be interesting to see what happens with regards to that. Whether we can persuade him to come to Newcastle. I'm sure we probably could. Wasn't my vision 2020 doing NUFC matters? You could say that. And Michael, thank you. He says many congrats, much deserved. What are your plans for 50k, Steve? Got to be something special. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it, mate. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Other big news this week, Ross, was that. One of our players was given a new contract, and that's Emil Kraft, and somebody who was probably the butt of a lot of Newcastle fans' jokes over the years, and certainly not a fan's favourite. And I think there was all like a sharp intake of breath when we signed Trippier, then a bigger sharp intake of breath when Trippier was injured, thinking, oh my God, this is the death knell, we're going to get relegated. I know I certainly felt like that. Kraft came in and he was superb.
He was. I think he certainly played better than what I thought that he could. And forced me to eat my words. And his performances towards that end of the season meant that really Kieran Trippier wasn't missed as much. I'm not saying he wasn't missed because he was missed, but he wasn't missed as much as what people feared. His performances were excellent, and he thoroughly deserves that extra year's extension on his contract. As far as as far as I'm concerned. I still don't think that he's necessarily going to be a starter or a long-term prospect of the club. But having said that, I've always said that you need different characters in your club. You're not going to have it's difficult to have kind of 17, 18 players in a squad who all think that they should be starting and all should be starting. You need squad players. You need that depth. You need players who can come in when required and do a job. You need players who are versatile, and Kraft's shown that, being obviously a very strong, very solid professional for the club as well. So fair play to him, absolutely fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's good to see some players' commitment to the cause being rewarded, and of course another one who could find himself in the same boat is Shelby. He's come out this week, and he's talked to the media a bit more, and I found it an interesting quote, to be honest, Ross, where he said that now he goes home and thinks about football, and whereas he came off the training pitch under the previous regime and just switched off.
I think that's again from what you hear and what you read and what you gather in bits and pieces when you're speaking to people. That's always been one of Shelby's downfalls, pitfalls. I think is that he's never really had that 100% focus on football outside of football as well. And I'm not saying that every player has to live and breathe the game, and you've got to have your downtime. You've got to be able to switch off. You've got to have a release away from the game. It can't be all consuming. Once you've done your training, whether you go on the golf course or you go onto the PlayStation or you go and spend some time with your family or whatever it is, you've got to have that little bit of release. But it's interesting that point, because I do remember an interview with, I think it was Matt Ritchie a year or so back as well, saying that Shelby could be any player that he wanted to be. He could be as good as he as some of the best midfielders in the country if he just focused a little bit more and didn't go straight on the golf course and just thought about football a little bit more. So it kind of echoes what I'm sure it was Matt Ritchie. I'll have a look and see if I can dig it out. But I'm sure it was Matt Ritchie who said something similar as well. So that's really interesting. It shows again, I suppose, the different philosophy, the different vibe, I suppose, that's around Newcastle under Eddie Howe, as opposed to Steve Bruce. There's, dare I say it, a different level of professionalism, a different level of intensity around the club. So that's great. That's if you can get 5%, 2%, 3% out of every player that he's got in his squad, then they're the fine margins that improve very good players into being exceptional Premier League players.
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. If you've got one, drop it into the chat, and we will come to them as and when we can. Gary making us laugh. He says, "Hi Steve, you could see you've got more people watching you than Sunderland." Thanks, Gary. That's a good way of looking at it. The return. Good evening. He says, "Does Ross think Richie will leave this window?" That's a really
interesting question. If you'd asked me at the end of last season, I would have said undoubtedly yes. I think he absolutely would. I'm not concerned at the. I'm not too sure at the minute. I think this is Richie's one that could go either way. He's obviously got a good relationship with Eddie Howe and has played under him, and I think Eddie Howe values him as what I've just been talking about there previously about Emil Kraft is a player who adds a bit of depth to the squad, but is a good professional, somebody who isn't a guaranteed starter, but will come in and can do a job and probably know. I think Matt Ritchie, for he'll want to play every game. He probably understands that as well. He understands he's not in that kind of starting bracket. So it'll be up to him eventually, I think, as to whether he's happy with the role that he'll have at Newcastle, which will be a fringe player, but somebody who's well valued within the change room and well valued within the squad, and is somebody who Eddie Howe will want to rely on at certain points in the season, or if he wants to have more game time. If he wants to get more game time, I think he could well kind of push for a bit of a move. But there's a long way to go between now and the end of the transfer window. And the other thing to weigh up with that as well is that, by the time September the 1st comes around, or August 31st, September the 1st, the amount of games that are being played, 5, 6 games, whatever it might be, 4 or 5 games, players will then understand roughly where they're at within a manager's plans as well. So they'll be able to have seen, they'll say, actually, I haven't started the first 3 or 4 games. I've not been included. I've not had a sniff. Actually, I probably need to get out. Some will be sitting tight, waiting to see how the first 3 or 4 games of the season pan out. And that's where you will still see a lot of movement in them last couple of days of the window when players look and go, actually, the manager doesn't fancy me here, and if I want to play, I'm going to have to move on.
Yeah, Richie potentially going to Celtic. It was a rumour, BT. Yeah, you're right there. I've heard that one as well. Ross, I've got to pause for the Newcastle chat for a second. Tom Dixon, I've got a word to have with you. I actually had a dream last night, believe it or not, which involved Tom Dixon. And hold on, people in the chat, don't go crazy. I didn't have a very good night's sleep last night. I think it's because of the air, and I think it's the heat. But I actually had a dream where I had to be at the airport for a flight, and for some reason, and I know Tom Dixon doesn't drive lorries. Tom was looking for somebody to do him a favour with the delivery, and he was driving a lorry. So, being the kind-hearted soul I am, I said, yeah, I'll do it for you, Tom, no problem. I just remember it being stifling hot in this lorry. I was sitting in the front, Tom was driving. I was with another one of my friends as well. And I remember taking my shoes off because it was that hot, and then going to deliver the party. Don't forget it's a parcel. Don't forget it's a dream. I went to deliver the parcel. I come back and Tom's driven off. And don't forget that I've then got to get a flight. So I can't get this flight. So then I start to ring the missus to tell her what the predicament is. She then starts saying, well, you've been drinking. You've been drinking, which of course I hadn't. I've been to help Tom deliver this parcel. So anyway, the crux of the matter is I then had to start walking home to go and get my case, to get my passport, to get to the airport. And I looked down and I didn't have any shoes on. Then I woke up. So there you go. Not a great story. I'm going to have to check my dreams book to see what this dream book meant. But Tom Dixon, it's all your fault. Where did you go? Why did you drive off in the lorry? And what was in the box that I was delivering? Because I don't want to get in any trouble. But there we go. Interesting story. I'm sure that'll cause a bit of hilarity in the chat over the next 10 or 15 minutes. Tom Dixon did have a question, though. He says, Ross, how many more players do you think will be shown the exit door at Newcastle?
I think there'll be another couple, without a doubt, who'll go. Like I've just said there, I think some of that might be closer to the end of the window when players know where they're at in terms of squad selection. You know, they'll have a better understanding of whether they're going to be in that 25-man squad. You know, which Eddie Howe's going to have to make some tough decisions. He made some tough decisions in January. He's going to have to probably make a couple of more. So players there'll be 1 or 2 who will be told there, look, you're not going to be in the 25. And if you want to move on, you can move on. If you don't, then you can stay. So I would certainly expect probably 2 or 3 more departures, either loans or permanents, before the end of the window.
Okay, this is a commercial issue. George Cook's bringing up. He says NUFC need to sort out the ticketing system, with tickets still showing available at the Forest and Man City, but there's no logical way to purchase them. It's an interesting system that they have in Newcastle. I would say it needs to be addressed and quickly because of the demand, as you quite rightly point out, George. The Castoria thing's getting a load of stick as well, Ross. I know you're on Twitter, but that it seems to be not just Newcastle, but other clubs as well who are suffering at the hands of you know, a big company, it has to be said, that looks as if they've been just caught out with the demand. Yeah,
I think so. I think that's absolutely the way things are at the minute. There's a lot of clubs and you know, certainly ones connected with Castoria, but elsewhere as well. There's a real issue with kits at the minute. There was I think it was a BBC report the other day that you know, highlighted how many clubs just haven't got the kits available for fans to buy. There's obviously a kind of couple of 3 different reasons behind that, but some companies certainly haven't got the infrastructure in place around huge or masses of orders. So yeah, it's a bit of a concern.
Okay, next question from Michael. He says, Ross and Steve, we're at 29 over 21s in the current squad. How do we get down to 25? Watts, Longstaff on loans are obvious ones, but we're still overloaded. I can see Darlow going. I think Richie will probably go as well. Fernandez, there's another name there, but yeah, I mean, they'll still whittle this squad down, and there's still the enigma that is Elliot Anderson. There's no guarantees Elliot Anderson is going to be in the squad either, because rumours today that he could be going to West Brom, although I think that's been started by West Brom. But yeah, I mean, there's still a bit of chipping away to the squad to do before we get down to the magic 25, isn't there?
There's like I say, there's going to be, you're going to get the end of the window, and there'll be a couple more players probably brought in, and then that's going to mean a couple more are going to have to leave. I think those players that you've mentioned, Fernandez certainly, I think, must be looking and thinking, is he going to stay within the squad? Jamal Lewis, I would say, is another potential. How many left backs do Newcastle need to have? Matt Targett's obviously first choice, but then there's Paul Dummett, who's on a year's contract. Having given Paul Dummett a contract, you think that he'll be in the 25. He can obviously play central as well. So there's that. So does Jamal Lewis go out on loan, or do they try to sell him? I think as well, Javier Manquillo is another one that might find himself out of favour or under pressure for his place. Elliot Anderson's a really good one, an interesting one. He can still stay regardless of the 25, because he's under that 21 age, so it doesn't count towards the 25. So they can keep him in and around the squad if they feel that's the right thing to do. And if they don't bring in some extra forward players between now and the end of the season, then I think there's a fair chance he'll stay with the squad. But yeah, there's a few decisions to be made over who stays and who goes. Richie, I think one of the keepers will absolutely go, whether it's Gillespie or Darlow, and potentially another one or two as well. I'm still not ruling out a kind of a biggish exit as well at some point once they finalise that squad. And I say biggish, somebody who's maybe in and around the first team on a bit more of a level, whether it's an Almiron or a St. Maximin or a Jacob Murphy or someone like that. But yeah, there's still going to be lots to do between now and the end of the window.
Yeah, don't let Anderson get bruised, says Emmett. You're right there. God help him. Okay, big shout out to all of our sponsors at this time of the show. Thanks to Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from the lads. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and a Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.gohd.com. Thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walsall, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's, which are sauces handmade in Cumbria. You can find out more about them at www.mrvickys.co.uk or by calling them on 01768 210 102. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology side of things. And if you want to subscribe to the show, then hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your social media. Spread the word about NUFC Matters. We've just hit 49,000 subscribers. If you want to drop into the chat, please do. You can post a question to me or Ross, or just chat with like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Slight delay on this at the moment because the guy who does it is on holiday till the 4th of August. And then normal service will be resumed. You can still catch all your NUFC Matters favourites, of course, on YouTube. If you want to join the channel and help us, click join under the video. Or if you want to spend a little bit more money and get a scarf, a cup, and a membership card and a pen and entry into the monthly draw, then go to NUFCmatters.com membership and pay the one-off fee, and you will become a member of the cult. You can also put your phone over this smartphone over the QR code, and it will take you straight there on the website. We do send out a free car sticker to you if you subscribe to the show for free. Simply email john@nufcmatters.com and he will post one out to you. And please support the food bank. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is virtual 365 days of the year, and you can go and make an online donation tonight. The Alan Shearer Ball raffle is still ongoing, $2.99 a ticket. Purchase your ticket today, and you could win a ticket for the Alan Shearer signed ball. You could win an opportunity to win it. So get yourself onto the website and enter that today. Don't forget as well, the NUFC Matters Score Predictor, Super 6. Join the Matters gang, entering into our own league. £10 per entry for the season. Cash prize winner every month. Exclusive Manager of the Month t-shirt. Cash prize for the overall season winner. Trophy of Manager of the Year t-shirt. Sign up today at NUFCmatters.com. And the Peter Beardsley Soccer School going well this week. John sent us a few photographs of it a bit earlier today. Don't forget, it's Monday night training, and the July-August summer camps are available now. info@peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Good luck with that, Peter. It seems to be going very, very well. And I know you do want to watch the show. Dave asking, the club shop, should it be back up at the ground or back in town? Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I remember the old club shop at the Haymarket, Ross, the supporters club shop. Do you remember that one?
I do, yes, yeah. No, it'd be great to have that presence back up at St. James's, I think.
Yeah, we used to have club shops all over the place. Metro Centre, Newcastle. I think it would be a great idea to bring them back. And again, I'm sure they will in time. It's all about prioritising and getting things right. Ian McKenna says, if Newcastle announced tomorrow that we're going to spend money on burgers, UEFA would limit burgers. Very good point, Ian. What is Ross's opinion about Lucas Paqueta transfer? We're never stopped linking to him. What's your views on Paqueta this week? We've spoken about him on previous shows over the last few weeks, and again, lots of chat about him over the last 7 days.
Yeah, again, I've not heard anything different to when I talked about him last week or the week before, whenever it was. I think he's a player that the club like, but I don't think he's a priority at the minute. He's not high up on the list of potential signings. I think they're looking at a wide forward and a central striker, a winger. I know people will say Paqueta can play in those positions and possibly can, but look, things will change, and there's plenty of players that are being considered, and they're having to work through a kind of list to see who's available and who's available at the money and the terms that they want to pay this window. Paqueta, for me, like I say, he's not somebody who I'm aware of is near the top of the list, but things could change.
Tom says, do you think we'll smash our transfer record to sign a winger or a striker?
That's a really good question, because at the start of the window, I thought yes. I thought absolutely the record will be bust. I'm not convinced now that they think they can get the value for money with that striker now. I'm not convinced that they think that if they go 50-60 million for someone, I don't think they've got 50-60 million to spend, or they're not willing to spend that kind of amount of money at the minute, unless it's somebody who they feel gives them real value. So never say never, but I think at the minute it's maybe doubtful.
Okay, Michael says ASM on his phone chatting, looks like he's old school, sporting an iPhone 4, I think. Probably didn't have much money left after his trip to the Ferrari dealership, and he's parking tickets. Obviously, a bit of live footage going out there at this moment in time. Ian, I didn't see this, but it's funny. He says, did you see RB Salzburg tweeting at Man United today? We won 300 million for Sesko and Bruno. So I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. Delighted for Elliot Anderson, says Sean. Howard said he won't be going out on loan. Buzzing for him, which is great news. Yeah, I think we all hope that will be the case. Fantastic. Michael also says, great move. Locking Kraft down, deserves it. Ross and Steve, what are your thoughts on all these contracts running out at the same time? Is it coincidence or is it a plan, Ross?
I don't think there's too many running out now. As obviously Kieran Clark's runs out, Matty Longstaff's runs out, Dummett's just got a year extension. John Joe Shelby, his runs out next year, but I think he triggers a new one with 4 appearances, which he'll certainly make over the next 12 months. So there's 4 or 5, I suppose, which are about to kind of expire. I think there's I suppose Matt Ritchie as well. There might be another one, yeah. But these were all long contracts that were put in place previously. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence, but it will give Newcastle maybe a little bit more wiggle room in the squad situation there this time next summer.
Definitely will. Next question from Kevin. He says, Ross, can you elaborate on this financial fair play that all ground, academy and training ground expenditures must come out of the club's financial fair play budget?
I'd love to be able to elaborate on it. But if I'm being brutally honest, it's something which I've not really looked into in loads of detail. I will do probably maybe for next week and hopefully give a bit more of a wider answer. And I'll speak to a few people who are a bit more clued up on it than I am. I know that the training ground and ground improvements once upon a time didn't used to count towards financial fair play, but I do think that the rules have changed since then, or they have changed over recent years. So I'm not as clued up as other people are on financial fair play. So I'll do a little bit of research. I'll speak to a couple of people who are in the know a bit better, a couple of financial experts that we tend to speak to, and I'll report back next week or the week after.
Okay, Michael says, I was talking about the contracts that end in 2 years. Just elaborating on his question. Trippier, Burns, Shaw and Kraft.
Yeah, look, yeah.
Can you read too much into things at times, do you think?
I think you can, yeah. Trippier's 31, 32. He was never going to get a lengthy contract. The other players have signed long contracts and got years extensions. So look, there's you can go through every year and there'll be contracts that end. You look at 2025 and 2024, and there'll be 4 or 5 probably coming to a close then in both those years. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily read too much into it.
Okay. Mark Kern says Newcastle set to open talks with PSG over Julian Draxler after making contact with the agent and confident of a transfer. This was news that broke yesterday. Draxler, of course, could get him possibly for as cheaply as 13-14 million pounds. And I think the big deciding factor on this one seems to be that he's with the same agent that Steve Nixon's already done business with Joe Linton, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the link there. Again, it's not somebody that I've heard mentioned as being a potential target. That's not to say that he isn't, but it's not somebody whose name I'd heard until yesterday. And again, I haven't spoken to a couple of people. They've said that they're not sure on this one as well. So maybe it's agent talk. Again, he's another player who's out of favour at his club. He's fallen down the pecking order, and he's going to want to have a move or get regular game time again between now and November, as there's going to be a lot of players in that situation who want game time, who don't want to miss out on a place in the World Cup squad. If they're not playing, their international manager is going to look and go, well, you're playing 20 minutes every fortnight. You're not ready for the demands of the World Cup, and that's what a lot of players are going to be a little bit concerned about, and hence why agents will be starting to speak to other clubs about whether they'd be interested in taking said player on loan.
Okay. Michael again says, Ross and Steve, we're at 29 over 21s. Oh, we've had that one. Sorry, I've gone back on myself. Manquillo not started the pre-season yet. Must be favourite relief. Kevin, he's injured. That was what I last heard. I mean, does Manquillo have a future with the club, Ross? Do you think? We've got ample cover at fullback in that position, and I can't see how Manquillo can really stay. He could be another one out the door. Yeah, I said that about Fernandes, but how coming out? in support of Fernandez this week. You can't really second guess Eddie Howe. That's the problem.
No, you can't. I like Javi Manquillo. I think he's always done a very steady job, and he can play both sides, right and left side. Personally, I'd like to see him at the club. I'd like to see him stay. But how many fullbacks do you need? Is if you've got Trippier and Kraft, who are your right backs now, seem to be. You've got Target, Dummett, Jamal Lewis, who can play left back. Trippier can even go over to left back if needs be. Matt Ritchie can play left back if needs be. How many fullbacks do you need? It's not, Eddie Howe's not Alan Pardew. I don't think he loves fullbacks that much, where he's going to try and crowbar 6 into a team at once, or like Gareth Southgate's trying to do with England. So I think it'll just be maybe sheer weight of numbers, where you'll look and go, I've got enough cover in these positions, so you're the third choice. You're the one who has to either miss out on a place in the squad or move out on loan.
Michael's saying, is there an age profile that the club are looking for? Do you think Draxler, for example, may be too old for what they want?
I think there is an age profile. Yeah, I don't think it's set in stone as what we've seen previously with Newcastle, where it was that kind of under 24 with the potential for sell on that kind of we saw in the Mike Ashley and regime, and Graham Carr was kind of tasked with scouting people of that profile. So there's not in that sense, because obviously we've seen Kieran Trippier and Chris Wood and Dan Burn come into the team, but they do want value for money. They do want players who are young and ambitious and hungry. They want to improve the under 23s or under 21s. They want to bring in young players who can add to the squad in that sense. So they are looking at a number of 17, 18, 19-year-olds around, not just around Britain, but around the world. Looking at the players like Angelo from Santos, and one or two others as well. So while there's not a set policy, I don't believe, they do want players who are going to improve, who are going to be hungry, who are going to add value to the club as well. And that value can be in different ways. Kieran Trippier's undoubtedly added value, even though he's 31. Dan Burns obviously added value, even though he's 29. But they don't really have that kind of sell on value. So yeah, Draxler, like I said, not someone who's come across my knowledge, but you never know.
Javier Manquillo still has 2 years left on his contract, says BT. Ken says, do Benfica take this cup seriously? Ken, I'm sure they do. It's named after one of the greatest players. 100% they'll take it seriously. They'll want to win every year. New infrastructure costs will be included in these costs by 2024, which is why the club are looking to improve our facilities sooner rather than later, says Mark, giving us a little insight into that. Kevin thinks that we're going to keep a hold of defensive players, which is potentially why the people like Manquillo won't leave. Maggot Drowner says, we need to sign players for the now, not potential. Sick of that for years. Potential to see nothing but Ashley walking away with the cash. Different group of people now, though. Different group of people. Predictions for tonight.
Steve, you've got to buy both. You've got to get both in. You've got to have an eye on the future. You've got to have an eye on the now. They've got an eye on the now by signing Trippier and Burn and Matt Target, who are ready made. Nick Pope, ready made, oven ready, to quote a pretty unpleasant politician. Oven ready players for the Premier League, but they need to bring in some players who they can develop and they can bring in on and improve and look at them kind of 17 to 21-year-olds as well. So it's making sure that they get both.
Draxler's just paper talk, says Paul. Just like every other rumour that comes out every day, the club will be doing their thing in the background. Something will come out of the blue, like previous transfers. I think a lot of people do feel the same way as you. Question was about Darren Eales. I do believe that's the date that he starts properly, the 22nd of August. I've seen that quoted a few times. A lot of people asking what the prediction is tonight. It's going to be a tight game this tonight. Could go either way. I've got to be honest. 2-1 either way for me tonight. I think there'll be few and far goals between. But I mean, I think they played Fulham earlier this pre-season, didn't they? And I think they've walloped them. But yeah, Newcastle are a good defensive unit. We're going to struggle to score goals still, I think. That's going to be an issue. And I'm probably going to go for a 2-1 defeat tonight. I don't think Newcastle are, they're not going to be as fit, I don't think, as Benfica. Benfica have been training a couple of weeks earlier than Newcastle. I think 2-1 to Benfica. That's what I'm going to go for. Ross, are you going to be slightly more optimistic?
I will be. Seeing as you've gone negative, I'll go for a 1-0 Newcastle win.
Okay, good stuff. There's plenty of people going with the scores in the chat. Keep them coming. Gordon rumours surfacing, says Roger. Just the usual media rubbish, Ross. Yeah, Anthony Gordon again being linked. And again, until these people either tie themselves down, rule themselves out, or move to other clubs, we're going to get constantly linked with players between now and the 1st of September.
Absolutely. And look, we said on previous shows, Hugo Ekitike was the number one choice for a number of reasons that Newcastle wanted to bring in for that kind of forward role, wide forward, someone who could play through the middle. He was the number one choice for the club. That deal fell down, so they're having to look at backup options, and they're speaking to a number of different agents, number of different players and clubs on the list, and that's why there will be various different rumors come up. A lot of it is agent driven. A lot of it is agent driven. As I've said before, agents who are looking at potentially getting their club out of a club because of whatever reason, whether they're down the pecking order, or they want to pay increase or whatever it might be, or they want to move to a bigger club. So a lot of it is agent driven. From what I can gather, Anthony Gordon is somebody that Newcastle like. That they do really like him, and they would be interested in him if he was available, but he's at the right price, but he's not available at the right price. So that one won't happen, I don't think.
Okay, today rumours are tomorrow's chip paper, says Emmett. I love that phrase. I've used that quite a bit myself. Sean says, it's one of them. I want us to win, but then I want the front three to do so bad that we go out and improve the forwards. Rachel, thank you for pushing the likes and the subs. Benny says, suits us to be linked with so many. It makes it clear to clubs that we won't be held to ransom over transfer fees. Simonitis says, Verneling seemed to be starting. What are your thoughts? Personally, I like him. Pace can play on the left or through the middle. Yeah, we touched on that at the start of the show. You may have tuned in slightly late. Evening, Yano. I hope you're well. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the game tonight. Guys, would you have Gini Wijnaldum back on loan, being that it's World Cup year? Gini Wijnaldum, of course, we've had the Dutchman before. You might fancy playing with Sven Botman. We say on this show, never go back. It would be, it would be an interesting one, but I just think midfield's top heavy. We need a striker. I'm not sure Wijnaldum's the player we need. No,
I agree. I think he's a very, very good player, and I really liked him when he was at Newcastle, and he's obviously gone on and left Newcastle and had a fantastic career at Liverpool and now at PSG. Not for me. Let's focus on the areas that needed strengthening, the wide forward and the or the right wing or whatever you want to call it, and maybe another centre forward as well. Midfield looks relatively strong in depth. And would you want someone like Wijnaldum coming in, and if it's gonna potentially hamper the progress of someone like Elliot Anderson? It's all these things need to be weighed up, but yeah, don't go back.
Yeah, you don't go back, and as I say, midfield, I think there's other players that we we can certainly attract to the club and bring in, and Matty Longstaff, I think he's going to go out on loan. Tom, I can answer that question myself. I think Matty will go out on loan, and good luck to him. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Hopefully he finds a club which he can get a run out in, and hopefully get a permanent move to moving forward. Yano says, to quote the Backstreet Boys, don't want you back, which is fair enough. Michael says, Ross and Steve, how do we cope with an injury to Bruno? Is he the one player that is simply irreplaceable in our squad? As daft as it sounds, no player is bigger than the team, and Newcastle proved, I think, with the injury to Trippier, for example, that I mentioned earlier on in the programme, that we can cope. We have to cope. Every team has to cope. But I think midfield is one of those areas. We haven't got great wingers, and that's the problem. We haven't got people who can cross the ball consistently onto the head or feet of our forwards. That's the one thing we're lacking. If we could combine Ryan Fraser, ASM, and Jacob Murphy into one player, we'd have an ideal winger. But that's not the way it works. But Bruno, you've got options. We know Shelby's going to stay. We've got Sean Longstaff. We've got Joe Linton. We've got Joe Willock. We've got players who can play together and have regularly played together. So an injury to Bruno, although it would be disappointing and upsetting, and we would lose a bit of a talisman, you would cope because you do, Ross, don't you?
You do. You have to. That's the reason why it's a squad game, and you need to make sure that you've got good value players in. And I get what he's saying. And Bruno is one of those. You said it, talisman. He's a talismanic player. All of a sudden, very quickly in his Newcastle career, he's been adopted by the fans, and he's become a real kind of favourite. I think if you look at the team, there's two or three who, if they get injured, you look and you go, oh, that is a blow. Callum Wilson, if anybody's irreplaceable at the minute, for me, it's probably if you want to keep one player fit at the minute, for me, it's Callum Wilson. You saw the difference he made when he came back those last couple of games of the season. And for Chris Wood's a good player. He's not on that level for me, and he doesn't fit into. He doesn't give the same energy and drive and goal scoring nous that Callum Wilson gives. So Callum Wilson's the one who's really is close to being irreplaceable at the minute for me.
Yeah, Callum Wilson, if it's an injury to him, there'll just be a collective groan around Newcastle. It'll be on the Richter scale, I'm afraid, if that actually happens. Michael says we have very little creativity. You are right. Yeah, we haven't got much creativity. That is a big problem. And that's where the winger is important. Draxler, I don't know enough about him. Is he going to be an improvement? He hasn't had much game time in the last 12 months. Is he going to be an improvement on those players? I still think there's a player in Almiron, and we'll see Almiron take the bull by the horns, if you like, this season. I think Almiron will step up. Do you think NUFC will get a striker and a right winger in before the Forest game? John, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, I would say no. I think we might get one of them in, but I don't think we'll get both in. I think we'll get one in. What about you, Ross? Again, 1st of September is the deadline day. Yeah,
I think I'd be surprised if there's anybody new comes in before the Forest game. I think there will be players come in before. There'll be one or two who come in before the end of the window. But the Forest games is creeping up quick, so I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think so as well. Benny says, Ross, Steve, can you guys see Dubravka staying beyond January if he's not first choice, as appears that he won't be?
No, I can't. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in January. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes before the end of this window. I don't know that for certain. I've got no inside knowledge or anything on that. I've not been told anything whatsoever. I think Nick Pope will be. I said it last week. I think Nick Pope will start the season as number one, and then Dubravka's got a decision to make. And it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he moves between now and September the 1st, and certainly in January if he's not first choice.
Yeah, I agree with that, mate. I do. This one from Sank says ASM's a talented player but not consistent. I think two wingers will be better for us. Hudson-Odoi, Broja will do. Lead striker on January. Osherman, yeah, you do fancy Osherman, Sank. I know that. BT says Eddie Howe's admitted the loans are easier to do financially, but stressed that the deals must have options to buy to make sense to the club. It's definitely something that we will look out. No signings at the moment, Brian. You've not missed anything. This is from an Arsenal fan in India. I've always respected Newcastle. You guys deserve all the success, but it will be a gradual process. Thank you for that. And I think most of us understand that. And I think as a Newcastle fan, I can say hand on heart that we don't expect to be, running riot in the Champions League or winning the Premier League anytime soon. We just wanted our club back, and we wanted to have a bit of hope, and we didn't want to be involved in a relegation battle every season. So, most Newcastle fans are like that. It's just a minority who I think will, expect the impossible. Injuries are always a worry. I know you're right. If Lascelles doesn't get injured, we could have problems. Michael says there's been a ramp up on social media. We got lots of looks at pre-season, lots of smiles on faces. Has this been a calculated move by the club post-takeover? I like it a lot. Definitely been a ramp up on the social media front, hasn't it? The club have definitely been doing more.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good. It's engaging. It's fun. It's informative. Everything that social media should be. I think obviously, I think the media team, the press team at Newcastle were hamstrung under the previous regime as to what they can do. I think there's definitely a bit more license to go out and express and engage and connect with the fans. It also helps, obviously, that there's a feel-good factor around the club as well, and fans are buying into that. It's very difficult if you're in a media team at Newcastle and you're asked about, you want to do something and there's a negativity around the club that people just won't buy into it, So that has helped, but yeah, there's definitely been a tone shift, I think.
Is there any players in the Benfica team we should keep an eye on, Ross? I think the Chronicle ran a story about one player. I haven't read the Chronicle tonight, Michael, so I didn't see that.
I've not seen it. I'm actually off on holiday these last 2 or 3 days, so I've not seen the Chronicle over the last couple of days.
Good professional, Ross, though. You're still doing NUFC matters, mate. I appreciate that. It's a rhetorical question, by the way. Trulls says, if we don't get any more players, we will struggle with goals again with Wood as backup. I am worried, says Trulls. Yeah, I know, Trulls, but I genuinely feel we will be okay. Tim Cairn says, is tonight's game at 8 o'clock? It is. Benny says, is Paqueta being spoken about as a genuine potential signing for the right wing, or is it just putting 2 and 2 together as he and Bruno are being good mates? I still think it's a bit of both, but there seems to be a bit of mileage in it now. The price has come down. We know his club want to sell or are happy to sell. I think it's a bit of everything, isn't it, Ross?
It is, yeah. It's kind of one of them kind of perfect storms. Newcastle are in the market for good quality players, attacking players. They'll be fully aware of Paqueta, and they would have been fully aware of him before the sign Bruno. Players don't just miraculously appear on clubs' radars. They've got really extensive scouting networks and people who look at every player and are aware of every player in every club. So yeah, it's a bit of a perfect storm, and until he moves somewhere or the transfer window closes, I think he's going to be one who is constantly linked with Newcastle.
Geordie Toombalay says, can you see a Newcastle YouTube channel going to friendly games, training, etc., like Liverpool do with the Redmen? Great idea, in my opinion. I think the Redmen's linked to the local newspaper, I'm sure it's the Liverpool Echo. I have watched that and seen stuff come off there, Geordie Toombalay. There's that many Newcastle podcasts, it would I just don't think they would do that, and there's always that issue of keeping the club and the fans separate down that middle. Do you know what I mean? You'll get fans, you get some fans who will go out to these games and potentially try and get exclusives, etc. But I can't see that happening. I think the club will be more likely to develop their own YouTube with extra presenters, bring new presenters in. Rachel, when Miggy was playing alongside Bruno, he looks a different player. Finally has someone who can play him in when he makes a good run. Yeah, you're right. And this is what I say. I think we will see a relationship develop, and I think Almiron will become a better player, 100%. For me, as long as we finish 8th, 9th or 10th place, I'll be happy at the end of the season, says Chantel, and that's realistic. That is realistic, 100% realistic. What a midfield we'll have when we sing together.
Sorry, Steve. Miggy's an interesting one. I think he's done really well in pre-season. He's had a good pre-season by the looks of it. I think it's a big season. It's a big season for him. So, he'll be fully aware that Newcastle are looking for extra quality in those places that positions that he plays. So it'll be interesting. He's not starting tonight, though. The team's just dropped tonight, and he's not.
What's the team, Ross?
It's Nick Pope in goal, a back four of Kieran Trippier, Matt Target at left back, Jamal Lascelles starts at the centre defence with Sven Botman. Midfield 3 of Sean Longstaff, Bruno, and Elliot Anderson, which is really interesting. And a front 3, Jacob Murphy on the right, ASM on the left, and Callum Wilson is the central striker. Strong bench with Darlow, Shaw, Joe Linton, Shelby, Ritchie, Kraft, Wood, Almiron, Matty Longstaff, Willock, Dan Byrne, and a couple of young ones on the bench as well. So really strong team. There's there's 22, 24, 26 players in this squad who are all champing at the bit. But yeah, interesting midfield three with Elliot Anderson in there alongside Bruno and Sean Longstaff, and interesting that Jamal Lascelles partners Sven Botman in the centre defence.
Interesting, great stuff. Well, I hope everybody enjoys the game. Tom Dixon, keep out of me dreams tonight. I want to have a nice sleep. And Rachel and all the mods, thank you everybody for your best wishes with the 49,000 subscribers. Big thanks to you guys. You make the show and the chat a very comfortable place for everybody who watches. Ross, as always, great to spend an hour with you. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, mate. Enjoy the game tonight and enjoy the rest of your holiday. Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers, everyone.